Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, I have to admit, this is one of the coolest looking Breitling Chronomats I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them. This watch, which was part of the Chronomat Evolution generation, features a bracelet that is stamped as of early 2005, which marked the beginning of production for the Chronomat Evolution. So I believe that is approximately the vintage of the watch itself. Now, the Chronomat Evo is available in several different case materials and dials. This is by far the most compelling. You can also see the combination of the polished numerals on the red absolutely pops. All of it in a 44mm diameter stainless steel case. Taking a quick look in profile, it's thick. Breitlings tend to be 17mm. Lug-to-lug, 50.9mm, and if we include the end links of the bracelet, you can see 52.9mm from lug tip to lug tip with a 22mm spacing between the lugs. We've got that pilot style bracelet. We're going to throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it's a big watch, but it's not too big. I could wear this, and if you like a watch that's got a lot of color and a lot of character and a lot of presence, then you're probably going to find this quite agreeable. If you want something more discreet, look elsewhere. Heck, even look at other chronomats with less outrageous dials. That said, there's something incredibly charismatic about this inverse red panda, and that's what we're going to call the model. It will not fit underneath the cuff, though perhaps you might be surprised by how short it is lug to lug. For its size, it's actually not that bad across the wrist. The bracelet, you can see we've got that 5-link design. It's not a Navitimer. Those are 7 links. And taking a quick look, a beautiful looking full polish bracelet, removable links fixed by screws. You can see quite a few removable links in the bracelet, and then a couple of pairs of divots drilled into the clasp, so you can use your spring bar tool to dismount the bracelet and change its anchoring point if you want to fine tune the fit. Single folds to plain clasp, and as you can see, a folding clamshell style locking clasp. You can also see that Breitling thought of everything, fixing the clamshell with a screw in case this component ever needs to be replaced due to tolerances or wear. The cases of these are incredibly robust, as are the bezels. For many years, watchmakers have told me that in conventional water resistance tests, Breitlings generally create problems for the machines because the cases are so hard, and an incompressible case setting generally has to be used because a lot of those water testers will compress and then decompress a case, and if there's any discrepancy, that would mean there's a leak. But these cases don't compress. They're just that tough. And so incompressible case settings used on water testers. The watch does feature screw-down crown and pushers. It's 300 meters water resistant. And of course, it's got the traditional Chronomat case form, which is to say something between a tonneau and a round case. It's not exactly either, but it sort of splits the difference. We've got the Chronomat onion-style crown, the rider tabs on the bezel, which make it easier to grip the bezel, even if your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved. And then there's this little feature inboard called the chimney. You can see it's this polished ring around the crystal that helps to separate any impact on the bezel from being transferred to the crystal. You can also see that this is what's called a captive bezel. All these screws are functional, not decorative, and they help to hold the bezel onto the case itself. So if you want to dismantle this watch, you have to remove those screws, meaning it's not a snap-on bezel and it can't be snapped off inadvertently. Now, it is a dive watch, but it's also I would say it's aeronautics themed, but it's strictly speaking a diver. So here's how this works. When the Chronomat first came out in the 1940s, it was a circular slide rule chronograph calculator. It was sort of a preliminary version of what became the Navitimer in the 1950s. When the Schneider family brought new blood into the Breitling house, purchasing it from the Breitling family in the late 70s, the Chronomat was redesigned as the comeback watch for the brand, and instead of a strictly geared aviation watch, along with the Italian aeronautical group Frecce Tricolore, a watch that was useful for pilots, but also roundly useful as a sports watch, was created. And so we did away with the slide rule. The chronograph was now complemented by a dive bezel. We got the onion-style crown, the rider tabs, and that leads us to the present day where we have this 120-click unidirectional rotating dive bezel. So it's not an aviator-style bezel because those are generally bidirectional. This is a true diver-style bezel, and you can use it for timing. Taking a quick look, we'll do a loom shot. The watch does have a loomed dial. Even though the numerals themselves are polished, there are indices outboard that are luminescent. The chronograph seconds hand is also loomed. You can see the bezel pearl is generously sized, making it easy to line up against the minute hand, so you can time 2 events concurrently using the bezel as well as the chronograph. Taking a closer look at the dial, there's a Reho outboard, and you can see that on top there's a tachymeter scale, which can be used to gauge speed, such as a race car over a kilometer. We have polished chapter rings around each one of the silver white subdials. You can see each one also features Arabic numerals vertically arrayed with an azurage center. And take a good look here, because there's actually another scale on the Reho, and it's easy to miss, but it goes up to 100, and people always ask me, what is that scale that ends in 100? That's called a decimeter scale. It's rarely used anymore. It was popular primarily in the first half of the 20th century for various technical, military, and sometimes engineering applications, but it's not something used commonly today. It's mostly an evocative, nostalgic touch. Now you know what the nostalgia actually is. There's a lovely little framer on the date window, which is a nice touch, along with these numerals, which you can see are bright metal polished and applied. It's an upscale look for a chronomat, especially from the mid-2000s. It does look like a more expensive watch. Rolling over, you can see the case back is solid. This is part of how we get 300-meter water resistance. A means steel, acier. 13 means it's a Valjoux 7750 base inside. 3 means it's chronometer certified, and it is. It's a 7750 unidirectional automatic winding, 42-hour power reserve, 4 hertz beat rate, 25 joules, 5-position adjusted COSC chronometer with a hacking seconds function and a quick set date. So pull the crown out, you activate hacking seconds. And then there's a quick set for the date. We have screw-down chronograph pushers. The chronograph uses a combination of an oscillating pinion lateral clutch, which is actually a very smooth version of a lateral clutch with very little inherent play. And then it has a well-tuned cam or coulisse. This is a cam-style chrono, but an excellent one. The tactile feel is superb. You won't find it falling short in any regard. So it's a chronograph, it's a chronometer, it's aviation friendly but also dive compatible, and it has a very rare red dial with polished Arabic numerals. And again, this is the red panda dial that is rarely ever seen. So if you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.